Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with special guest, awesome friend, Dr. Cyrine Nehmé.
Hello.
Did I get the pronunciation correct that time?
Perfectly correct. This is the third time that you're having it correct.
Yes, all right. Well, I know we usually talk about like astrophysics. I know we talk a lot about space because I mean, what's not to talk about? There's a lot that goes on in it that I mean, we're learning so much new stuff every single day. And I know I brought up to you a little bit about the flat earth as well, but I feel like at least from getting to know you more and more from the more times we've talked, we've really connected on something we've never truly addressed in one episode of a podcast, which was the world as in mental health wise, as in people's perspectives, as in the right now, it just seems like it's a very, very hard time for a lot of people. The world seems to be in distress. Not at least I don't know what it is like over there, but in the States, a lot of people are kind of at conflict with each other. And I mean, it stems from so many different things, but it literally, as me as a person, I feel that the world is missing a big piece, at least in people's lives. And I don't know where that comes from because when you look at people nowadays, it's a look of being unfamiliar or it's a look of aggression, a look of pain, sorrow, all these mixture of emotions chalked up into one person. And it's not getting better, it's getting way worse. And I'm trying to figure out there is a core issue, but what are the steps that's building this core issue? It's like pushing a rock up a hill. What are those factors that are heading there? And from my perspective, it's a lack of communication. It's so many. There's so many I can't really narrow it down, but lack of communication would be my number one.
Well, thank you for having this subject, and it's really very interesting, very important. And first of all, I want to emphasize that I'm not a specialist in mental health, or neither a psychiatrist, neither a therapist. But I was with very several groups in France, and I did a therapy myself for 6 years, and I've been having a small show on my media to treat this, to talk about it, and it's really helping people, men and women, twice every 2 weeks or once a week. It depends with my work and with the subjects. Well, my friend, I think that I take it positive and negative what's happening. Because as you said, it is lack of communication, the first thing. And the human is a social animal. What we used to have, it's not just communication. The key word for the human is to see, to touch, to feel, to smell. And to the communication is also in the tears, in the eyes, in the breath, in the contact, in the temperature. But also, what I felt that is happening those 2 last years is that in all our experiences in the new society that we had the last 100 years, with the development of technology and the consumption, is that we were lacking, we were missing. The key point is that we were not having the knowledge digging inside of ourselves. So, what happened here, we were obliged to stay with ourselves. And this is the big surprise for a lot of people. I don't know if I am very clear. So, yes, we were going to see our beloved. We used to go out to communicate, to dance. We were living like a lot of fuzz, a lot of noise, if you want. I'm not saying that it was wrong, but we used to go to work, come back from work, gym, family, friends, enjoy. But if we really go back to ourselves, a lot of people that we used to hang out with vanished. I have to ask you, my friend, a real question. Are you really communicating with all the person that you used to hang out with before the confinement? or before the problems? Are you having them, all those 20, 50 people that you used to dance, to go to the gym, to go to the university, to, I don't know, to have a drink with?
I think
No.
I think for a lot of people the answer would be no, but I've basically throughout my life at least, I have been more of an introvert where I have chosen my relationships closely, kept my mouth shut a little bit and learned from observing and watching. But when you look at like the number of stresses during this whole entire past year has gone up, and all the forms of therapy or things you would call stress relievers that would take the acceleration pedal off those stressors, such as the gym, working out is a great stress relief, reading a book, watching a movies. Those are like the movies, for instance, those can help. But when you're
Yes.
doing them because you're forced to not leave your house, after a couple weeks, they get a little bit old. And I start wondering why the stressors increased and they took away the stress relievers. And it doesn't create a world of happy people. It creates a world of pain. It creates people that are angry with each other. I mean, if you really look and try and count your friends in total, people want to count the people that agree with them as their friends. But what about the people that actually know you? See, family dinners, I started noticing when I first started this podcast, were not happening anymore. Maybe in certain families they were, but the norm was you would eat your food in your room, you would eat your food by yourself and not with your family. And that takes out the whole era of communication and it brings into what I call false connectivity, which
Yes.
happens when you build a big following, for instance. Social media is this great deceiver, I would say, when it comes to a person will put up a Facebook post and complain about how their day is horrible. They'll get 7 likes, 8 likes. Then
Yes.
they keep posting every single day of the week bad things that are happening to them and they'll keep getting likes. But then let's say they do it 7 days in a row. That eighth day, they post a status and they'll get 2 likes and they'll delete it and wonder if anybody truly cares about them anymore because now he's not getting the same number of likes he's been getting the past couple of days, which this could all be eliminated if you had someone after a rough day. You would come home and you would talk to your family, you would talk to a close friend that would listen to you, and there'd be an exchange of emotion where they would give you a little bit and you'd give them a little bit. It's a reciprocating action. The issue now is, which I noticed when we came out of lockdown here back in like June or July, people were coming up to me and then talking to me like they've had no contact for years, not even on a phone. Just let me tell you about my life. Well, I lost this. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. One at a time. It's an exchange, just like words are exchanged in a conversation. These aren't arguments. These are conversational tools where one person talks, another person speaks, and nobody's overcutting each other. Same thing with emotional exchange. You're saying your thoughts, your emotions, and someone gives you their thoughts and their emotions, and the weight is lifted because now you're working on someone else's problems and they're also reciprocating yours. You have a better perspective sometimes, not in all cases, of being able to help somebody because you're coming in from an outside view. But now everyone is taking that idea and they're starting to control people's lives. And in this situation of the way the world is right now, you cannot control somebody's life because no one wants to feel oppressed. We've all been feeling it for a year, and it's not easy on our minds.
Well, well, I totally agree with you. Well, like as usual, in a sentence, you just, I wrote like three sentences because you are really an ocean of ideas. I love it. Well, exactly. The human is not just a status. It is, as I said, a communication with smells, with touch, with look. I totally agree. But what I meant to say in my first idea is that the only positive thing, if I may say, in this confinement is that we really knew the importance of real contacts, even if they are not our friends. And this real listeners, real people who will care. And you mentioned something very important is the social media. People on the social media, they don't really care. They really just or they are stalkers, or they are really wondering what you are doing because they are jealous. And if you put a sentence that you are in Ibiza or I don't know why, they just will put like because they want to be in your circle. But if you are really sad, it really, there are few people that really care about a person who they don't know you. They are really in their small bubble. They are really feeling that they are, or they need help. Why do they will put energy to think about the problem or of that person that they are acquaintances with within the 4,000 people from their box of, no, they will not, of course. And if someone will write a status, I will kill myself, I need help, do you think that someone will ask him, please don't do, or please, why you are going to kill yourself? Because it's anonymous. It's a platform where no one cares about no one. And this is why I totally agree with you that what I was saying, and I really want to repeat it, it is the positive thing is that when we are in this confinement, we knew that we needed the contact to be different. And we filtered the friendship, the meaning of friendship. And you are lucky because you are introvert. Sorry for saying I am not introvert. I had a lot of what I considered friends. And I knew that those I didn't found them now because I used to go to have like 30% around me. Now I don't have two, three to call them, to ask them if I am not good, and the opposite thing is that social media, Instagram or whatever, Twitter is also more dangerous than other platform. Why? Because you are really limited to number of letters, and then you are obliged to put your anger in, like, you don't express your anger, your hate, and there is some words you cannot use, and you are obliged to say whatever it is good to say, and in 120 or whatever, so it doesn't reflect even what you want to say. So you might saying something, you might help him or her, but it's just, and you are tired of answering because you want to think about your problems, you are afraid, society of fear also. So what do you want to do with short words, with small platforms? So of course social media, it's not, and moreover it's like those dating application. So people now, they don't know if the other is lying or not. Okay, imagine that you as a whole person, with what you are, your values, your beauty, your special thing that you have. Okay, a person will swipe you left or right, or will put dislike. Imagine that, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, the number of depression, like the scientists are writing, the psychologists are writing, the number of depression, because this is the only thing that they have, a platform, a phone, and an application. They are starting that from a woman or a man that they don't even know the worst. They feel that they are worthless. The number of people, they lose the meaning of their life because of those application that was left or right. They go to the psychotherapist, they tell them, but I got 1,000 dislike. Okay, but do you know those person? No. The earth will still rotating, yes, but why you feel depressed? Because my other friend got 1,000 like. You mean, you know what I mean? You
I,
know the
I think with social media, for instance, the example I've heard from celebrities talk about it when they see something that's wrong. Jordan Peterson, in my opinion, is very, very intellectually smart, but he goes against the norm, I would say, of what society wants them to think of. But I think he's anybody, at least he's got a degree in it. He's got some intelligence to him for sure. But when he talks about how like he's being attacked on social media, like thousands of comments attacking him, and he's like, did I say something wrong? It's not that you say something wrong because you're not noticing the positives. You notice the negatives about things. Same thing about a person. You notice a lot of positives, but then you also start noticing their flaws, the ability to accept someone for their flaws, for their positives as well. The issue is that when someone is coming across your platform on social media, and I don't even think it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's all this, it started way before that. It started Tinder, for instance. That app, you can pay money, a fee, to be able to get certain benefits, to know who's viewing your profile, who's disliking your profile, who's liking your profile. This is all going to cause people to buy into this scheme. And I think it also started back in the day. There was an old show. I don't know if you ever watched this show, but it was called Celebrity Rehab.
Yes.
So I used to thought that it was a very cool thing that they would get these celebrities on here. It's horrible. It is a horrible thing that you're exploiting somebody's pain and somebody's suffering for your own entertainment. And that's where the demon gets let in the door. When some people that we know, you say one person says, you comment, you make a status saying kill yourself, or you make a status saying you're going to kill yourself, and someone's comments, don't do it. Out of those 100 people that comment, don't do it, who actually know you, there's one profile where their picture is an egg and their name is some type of crazy username like C212562. And then they comment, do it. You notice the do it. You don't notice all the other people telling you not to. It's because
Yes.
when you have so many positive things around you, you will see the negative out of all the positive things. And it works in the opposite way too. If you play your whole entire career, play your whole entire role on getting people upset, much like Steven Crowder does, you're going to notice the positives, people agreeing with you rather than the negatives. But the issue is it's all a factor of distorted perception. You're corrupting people's mind. Let me tell you something that has been on my mind for the past, I think, a few days since it's happened. The mayor of New York, his wife lost $850 million that was supposed to go to mental health. $850 million that's gone. I get it if you lose one, even one's a lot. But 850 million, and people are like, well, it's corruption. Yes, it is. But it's even worse. You're killing. There's a mental health fund that is no longer available for people, and there's a mental health issue. That issue is not stopping, it is increasing. And what's your fix? Ban guns. Okay, I get it. But that's not the issue. Guns aren't the issues. Why is a person wanting to take their own life in the first place? There's a mental health issue there. People are not happy. You need to focus on what this is. Instead of giving stimulus checks, instead of giving other things that are helping out in people's business, stop controlling people and showing them the worst that everything in the world is showing you that it's this bad. It's not. There's a lot of good in this world. You have to show that as well. You can't just give everybody a funnel of bad information. If I sit a kid down in a chair and say, watch the news for a day, then afterwards he's like, the world sucks and it's all this, because the news isn't showing you anything good. If you're just going to funnel him bad information, he's going to think the world's horrible and never want to experience it. You see this in academia. I've seen so many kids my own age that are academics saying, you're racist, you're a white stereotype, you're white privilege, you're this. Where's that coming from? We took the Native Americans' land, and what is happening? It's because the education system is now following society standards of you need to think this way. This is how you need to think. And I get a little upset because nobody's talking. They're saying you're wrong, I'm right, and you need to stop. And I don't like that, because a banter of conversation, the whole reason why debates are interesting, and they give you that little like, oh, I give that little charge. It's an intellectual chess match. But now this chess match is turning into a brawl where people are punching them other people in the face. People are getting robbed with bats. It's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really killing me also because when I teach my students, and And I want to tell your followers and the people who are watching that I am an astrophysicist and I'm scientist. So I cannot tell student to not be, or people or anyone or any person who is watching or listening to me, not to have a critical thinking. It is the essence of life. We cannot just say yes to everything. So the critical thinking is, in my humble opinion, is being, it is, they are killing it. I feel that if we don't just accept whatever is being told us and they are telling us, even if it is not logic. So we cannot say yes if it is not logic. For instance, okay, if I am in a meeting, and I will go back to the mental health and academic, because I will tell you also what's happening worldwide and here. So if I am in a meeting and I don't also shout, always shout for sexism, because sometimes it is the problem of a non-efficiency of a person. So if a woman will do a presentation and I can find it a scientist, she can be not good, like a man can be not good. So in academia, sometimes I have to accept the presentation and to stand with this woman because she is a woman. I don't want to do this. And if I criticize her for science, not her in person, I have all the feminists will come and tell me that I am against the women, I
That you're
am
an enemy.
sexist. Yes, and I don't belong here. I have they have to kick me out. No, no. You cannot. It's really, if you
It's
don't have a certain thing, and it's horrible. And to come back to the mental health issue, my students now, I have several students from first year of engineering to masters in astrophysics, fifth year of engineering, BS physics, and they don't have the power of studying. They don't have the belief in the future. So what's happening now? Before, they used to go out to meet other, and when you meet this communication of energy, they can, yes, they can do, they do push to each other, work, do this, yes, you can do it, they can work together at night doing the projects. So now what is happening, they are studying alone. They have 18 to 25 years, so they are not living the experience of love, of the first tear, the first love, the first experience. They are alone, and they are accepting everything the academic are giving them. So they just want to finish the project, no critical thinking, no experiences with the hard way that we used to have, the ancient, the elder. And I'm seeing that they are having a dead mind. And with the dead mind, they are having a dead soul. They are just depressed. They don't believe in anything. I mean, believe in their power. They don't believe in themselves. And they're just living day by day. Uh, they don't want to do anything. And they are just prisoners. They are prisoners.
Well, let's
And
use.
this,
I will say, let's use the example of academia study, for instance, because see, I'm passionate about. I went to school originally for chemical dependency. I don't know if we ever talked about this, but then I went from chemical dependency to psychology because I wanted to learn more about the human mind. Because, like addiction, I have my thoughts have kind of changed. For instance, just because I think it's necessarily not the drug you're addicted to, but you're addicted to the feeling that you get that avoids the pain that you're using that drug for, such as like rehab centers, for instance. About 65 to 70% of people that get out of rehabs end up going back because the person's there to treat you for heroin. But
mm,
if you stop doing heroin and you come home and your house is still burned down and your wife still
yes,
left you, you're going to turn to another drug. You're not fixing the basic step principle. But with
exactly.
academia, for instance, just through examination on Twitter, I see so many kids complain about the length and the amount of studying pressures that are put on young students. The pressures are because they feel like they need to do as much work as they possibly can to make sure that they can get a nice career, a nice path, which is necessarily not even the norm anymore. Right now, requirements for educational purposes, you need to have an associate's degree. You need it sooner or later, it's going to be you need to have a master's degree when those were excelling in your programs. If you just took a couple classes in college could pass for a job. Now it's
Yeah.
like a bachelor's, all these other types of things.
Yes.
The pressure of society, and I think it also stems a little bit too from when your parents tell you you can be anything you want in the world. The issue is if they say you can be anything, you could be president, you could be an astronaut. They never add this to it. If you want to.
Yes.
Now you're telling your kid, now when they find out and they're in their 20s or they're in their 30s, they're like, "Oh my god, I'm not a president. I'm working at a Home Depot. I'm working at a Walmart." There's a mental impact there. I hate bullying to the extent, but I think it's needed. I think it helps with growth. But when physical bullying is one thing, mental bullying is something completely different.
Yes.
Physical wounds can heal. Mental and emotional wounds last a lifetime where people need constant things of therapy. Stress, I mean, you need a certain amount of it for your body's immune system. It helps fight off things. But when there's too much of it, it becomes overwhelming and detrimental to your life. Now, for instance, with we call this, I would call this like it's like the energy people give off in their like emotions. When you walk into a room, you can sense that, like, hey, I'm here with all my friends. We're gonna have a good time. It's a good feeling in the air. You're producing good energy.
Exactly. Exactly.
But when you walk into a class and a bunch of kids have all these restrictions on them, such as staying so far apart from each other, make sure that mask never comes down for a second, make sure all these fundamental factors, as you have this much work that you have to complete in this amount of time, and if you don't get it complete, you're going to get a wrong grade, causes stress. Now, when your whole entire environment is stressed, it's going to create more stress and depression. And now all these factors are being applied to. They actually said that the number of I think it was the suicide rate during the lockdown had actually decreased. This was an article in the Guardian, and I'm like, I had to look into this. I was like, decreased what? And I clicked on it. For the first 2 weeks, people cared about each other. It's like a terroristic attack. When a terroristic attack happens, for the first month, people are, I love you, let me help you, everything. And then you go back to the way you were before that all happened. I looked at this study where they said that the numbers have decreased. No, they didn't. They've actually increased by a lot because of the factors nobody's able to communicate. Everyone feels like they're on edge 24/7 and they're afraid to say what they want to say. Now, I've heard many people say to me before a podcast recording or even in their tweeting bio, my thoughts are my own, because it's a factor of they don't want to get in trouble with their school. They don't want to get in trouble with people that they know. They don't want to get in trouble and isolated from groups that they're associated with. You are your own person. The fact that someone could have control over what you say or anything could lead on to them is a whole nother factor of society picking the wrong issue. But I don't like people not being themselves. And a lot of people through social media, I put this on Twitter a long time ago when this pandemic first started. Why do you care so much about wearing a mask when you've been wearing a mask your whole entire life? A lot of people are not being them true selves. They're being this fake image that they think the world wants them to be, or something that they're being told to be, rather than trying to look inside of themselves, where during this pandemic should be the main thing everyone focused on, was you can't control when you reopen. You can't. You can write as many letters to the government as much as you want, but they're going to do what they want to do. What you need to do is look inside of yourself and find the things that you can control, the things within yourself, the things in your community, the things around your home. If your home is thrown off, the environment in your house, people don't want to talk to you, your own family, your mother, your brother, your whatever. If you're all at tension with each other, you need to focus and clear this out. Because once you're clear, you can fix your home. Once you fix your home, you can work outside of your home and get to a community standard where people can communicate without fighting each other. I know this is a lot that I just told you, but It's so much because when you really talk about one of these issues, it's like a branch on a tree. There's another one and another one and another one. Then you're not even counting in the leaves. It's so much where it's like, instead of trying to tackle the main part of the tree, let's start with the branches. Let's figure out what do we need to start correcting to find, and we are doing a form of correcting, but it's not the right way. It's a horrible way. We're telling people they can't speak, they need to shut up, they need to be canceled. They're going to lose their job. I talked about this before it even reached academia with comedians. When someone goes to cancel you, Bill Burr, a famous comedian in America, has a really good joke. He says, when you cancel someone because they say something that is inappropriate or something you don't find funny, you're not fixing the issue. You're costing that person their livelihood. Then they go home and they tell their kids, I lost my job because of these feminists. Then those kids are going to grow up to hate feminists. You're only making it worse. What happens is if a comedian tells a joke and it doesn't get a laugh, he's going to have to find new material. The world evolves and so does comedy. Canceling it is not evolving it. You're suppressing it, and people do not like to be suppressed.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same when you cancel or you fire someone and at work because he is against your political ideas, and he will go at home and he will say to his family and his children that he was um, he is without work because he is against the political ideas of this ideas, so he will end up by hating those and he will become extremist to the children or the family. So yeah, you had a lot of things and many important things as usual. Well, to come back to the students, what will happen to the students when they are with masks very separated, especially the youth 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're not saying that those 12, even those 12, 13, they are feeling, because I have nieces, I feel that they are always feeling anxious, and the guilt part. Don't underestimate the guilt part. If they are talking and the mask, the small young one, the 7, the 6, if they have the mask down, they feel that if they had sinned, guilt or criminals, so they put it up. And if something, they have something in their hand and they pass it to someone else by mistake, they take it, they clean it. They are putting in the head of the youth a form of guilty. And our the people that are watching us will know that the guilt, putting the guilt in the mental health from the youth in the beginning, is a very damaging thing. So what the society is doing is isolating, creating anxiety of getting sick or putting your parents sick or your family, so you are responsible of death, and the anxiety permanent. And this will cause a trauma. A very, very long trauma will cause to a trouble in anxiety and stress. Depression will attend to addictive conduct, will be violence and at home. And we are shaping a new whole society to be ruled by our governments. And when you talked about being thyself, being yourself, my dear friend, is very costly. When you want to be yourself, you have to be responsible of the result. Maybe you will lose your job. Maybe you will lose your friends. Maybe you will lose everything that you built for. No one, very rare of people have the guts, have the to be themselves. Because with all those from the 1200 Moyen Age, uh, you if you give your real thoughts, you could have been killed. You disappear. And do you think that now we are in real democracy? You think that now we are not living in dictatorship? If you say If there is several words now, if I write them on Twitter, I will be banned. And they are not kill or hate, regardless if I am with them or not. Do you think that this is normal?
I think there's a lot of people that can't say what they want to say because in fear of being banned. It's all gatekeeping of information too.
You know, it's really it's scary. And I will continue your ideas in the question, or in the what you
Well,
said.
you mentioned a really good point I wanted to add to was about the younger
Go.
kids, the 8 and 7 year olds. My nephew, for instance, is I think 3, going to 4, and I went to
Mm.
high five him. It's like, hey, give me a high five, and he said no. And I was like, give me a high
See?
five, give me a high five. He's like, no, no, I don't want to, I don't want to. I was like, just give me a high five, like you can go, like do, as a joke, as an uncle would do, like give me a high five, and I'll let you run up the steps. And then my brother's fiance said, he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to, and looked at him and said, you don't have to, buddy, it's okay, you don't, like he was going to be upset. And I say, this is wrong. It's not that forcing him is something he needs to be doing, but you're implanting into his mind that something as simple and something that has no effect besides a high five is as serious as a crime as KKK, all these other types of things that are out there. And when you put that into the mind of these kids, they're going to start treating every single thing. If I don't have enough money for Funyuns out of the snack machine, even though I still get food, I don't get the Funyuns. Then it's so dramatic to them.
Yes.
You can't breed that because I think when they started opening up schools, a lot of people were pushing back saying, "What? You're going to open up schools? How dare you as a mayor open up a school?" And they brought in this factor that totally changed the person's mind. A lot of these kids that were going to these schools were looking forward to that lunch because they couldn't get it at home. And all
Yes.
these people changed their attitude of like, "Oh, I get it. Now, yeah, I see where you're coming from. You should open up schools." Nobody's talking. Everyone is on their own destructive warpath based on whatever's been brainwashed into their head. The best thing about starting this podcast and the worst thing is I don't have my own opinion anymore. I look at everyone's perspective views. There's only two things in this world when it comes to mental health and the fact should kids get free lunches that I have stern, strong opinions on based on my own experience. These are the only times this conversation or any of these conversations I've had have ever turned into a debate. When someone told me that kids should not get free lunches, and being a kid that struggled in school and was hungry a lot, that got free food, I consider that wrong. But I'm valid to hear his opinion, and we worked it out because he's in private school and I was a public school kid. If you're in private school and your parents are paying that much money and they can't afford to give you lunch, then there's an issue there. But that goes to a whole nother topic we don't have to go down to. The issue is that you're brainwashing kids and exposing them to things that necessarily aren't as dramatic as now they're being built in their head to be. Imagine your life, for instance, is doing horrible that day, that week. You have to get your car repaired, you lost your job, you lost your family, whatever. In that moment, that is very drastic on your brain and your stress levels, and you can contemplate suicide. But now that has changed to my tweet didn't get 8 likes. My this didn't get that. That should not have that recourse. That should not have that effect to it. But we've programmed our minds to consider that the same level, the same
Mm,
value.
mm, mm,
And
mm.
that is very, very bad in my eyes.
Of course. And you said something very important when you said that at home, when we talk about things together and we make things clear, and once everything is clear, we have this empathy together. And this is the key. Well, my friend, what's happening with this confinement and the last 2 years is home as it is not that secure, because we come back to the youth and the home and the academic and the study and the women and the man. Everyone is depressed, a lot of them, 80% anxiety. No one, very rare people, are like having this peace of mind to really can help the other. So, for example, here in the Middle East or in Lebanon, we still have a confinement. We don't go out. Schools are not open yet. We have the distance learning, and we are not going to work, distance working, distance teaching, and everything. So, imagine what is this father or mother will give to her children uh, if they are already depressed, and what will happen to those youth or to this woman or man if the man is psychopathic. And by fact that a psychopathic will, the violence will increase if he is already stressed and lost his job. He cannot go out to talk with his buddies. And if he's not taking his medicine, or the woman, if she is really had problems and she is at home. So we saw that with those 2 last years, the violence has increased, the narcissistic behavior increased, the women who lost their faith in couples, the divorce increased both ways. So no one will try to understand. So this family entity also maybe consider me. Maybe I am ancient model or conservative in that way. I love the entity of what we call family. So the family is also destroyed, and people are, men or women, are trying to find a fake help on Twitter, social media, or whatever platform is, and they are trying to seek relief with people that they are not empath. They fake empath. So a woman, if she is not happy with her partner, not husband, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, she is trying to find a quick one person who will tell her 2 words, 3 words, just to escape, because the platform, electronical platform, is the only escape that we are finding it. And I read a lot of papers that people, couple problems hitting men hitting women, and women hitting men and hitting children, is really increasing. I don't know in Europe and in USA, but in the Middle East is a drama those 2 years.
It's happening here
And
too. I think it's because it's a factor of lockdown as well too. See, the issue is when you start acting not yourself, as in you're not being your true self, things that you want to do, you get stuck in a job you hate, you're miserable all the time, all these many factors that come into play. You end up getting a little bit brainwashed by society, as in society says this is bad. I support you in the because you want to build friends. It's a good thing. You want to start it off, but you're not being yourself. And then when you surround yourself with people that you don't necessarily agree with, but you like the community aspect of it, you're building a false life. You're building very, very false roads to run down. An example I can give to you about the send a couple worded text, for instance, when I was in my high school time, um, obviously there were some girls that I wasn't necessarily actually feeling the ways I would text. And I noticed this issue that I had because I was texting a girl and I was like, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And then back and forth exchange, handsome, all that, whatever you want to call. And I noticed I'm not feeling this way through my actual brain. I'm thinking with another member of my body, and this is going to run down some false roads. So I would just say, I think, this needs to, we need to cut this off. And they're like, okay, whatever. And then they would go off because I realized if I take a person down a road that I necessarily don't want to be in, but I prefer the physical action to it, not the actual emotional connection, then I'm doing them a disservice because then I'm giving them all this, I'm leading them down, I'm making them catch feelings. And then next thing you know, it's this whole thing where, sorry, I don't like you anymore. And they're broken up by it. And that works in both ways. It's like keeping a person on a hook. And it's because you want to have attention, you want to be loved, but you don't necessarily like it when it goes sour. And when it goes sour, which in turn all things end up doing, You need to understand some things. That's why I tell people, if I go out on a date with you, I don't want makeup. I don't want anything. I want to talk to the person I can truly connect with, the person that I want, the person I should see with nothing on or no makeup, anything should be the person I like, not the only glamorized up version, which has happened to me a couple times with my ex history, where I was like, okay, I didn't know that's what you look like. You have a freckle? What? And it was like this whole like, it's a shock to your system. And it works in the same way with your friends. When you find out your friend, like he goes, yeah, let's go bowling. Then next night, yeah, let's go bowling. Next night, let's go bowling. Then a month, 6 months into the friendship, dude, I gotta be honest. I hate bowling. Well, this is the only thing we connected over. You say you hate it? You see it with sports. Some guy will be like, "Hey man, you like the Ravens? Yeah, I like the Ravens. I love football." And then you bond on the Ravens. And then every time you see that person, it's all about the Ravens. You guys think you're friends, but you're not, because you realize the only thing you connected over was sports. And if you go to any other area of conversation, it all goes back to sports, because you don't connect on anything else. You don't have a true friend. You have a person you can talk to and be nice to, which everyone should aspire to do in the world. You should be able to manage a conversation with a person without getting upset at them.
Yeah.
But your friends, a lot of those, I believe, should only be counted maybe on two hands. You should have a number at least on two hands or one hand of
One hand.
people you can call on whenever you need them. I had a buddy, and I aspire, and I extend, if you lived in my area, I would be able to extend this to you as well. But sadly, you're in a whole nother country. But we are friends. My buddy, I told him, and I've only met him probably 4 times. I hung out and like with him like twice at his house. He's a friend of my friend. And I told him, I said, here's my phone number. If you ever need me, no matter the time of day, no matter the whatever, call me. And I got a call, not even a year later, at 2 o'clock in the morning. He was drunk at a bar, had no ride home, and he needed to get home because he didn't want his baby, his kid, to wake up without him being there. I went all the way an hour and a half away from where I lived, picked him up at 2 o'clock in the morning, drove him all the way to his house, tell him to get home safe, watched him walk into the house, and I drove home. I never asked for gas money. Not everyone needs to aspire to do that. But when I say, you need to understand that when you tell somebody something like, I will be there for you, I will do
Yeah.
this, I will do that, you have to mean it, because that favor usually ends up being called in. But how many people in the world that you couldn't even count on one hand, you couldn't count on two, you couldn't count on if I give you every hand in the universe? How many people say something and don't actually mean what they're saying? They say something in an act of aggression, or they say something in an act of, I'm here for you for support, but don't ever call on me because I'm not going to live up to that. And that's an issue you need to fix. Don't, my grandma, for instance, loved one thing especially about me, was I am a man of my word. When I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. That is not a pat on my back. That is something I've established to do because I spent a lot of my childhood making little lies and little things and getting into a lot of trouble. Now that I'm older, I think around the age of 14, I said, I'm not going to lie anymore. There are some things like Santa Claus, I get it. Even though I'm like, hey, I don't want to give a fat guy all the credit. I'd rather take the credit for the gifts. But when it comes to the severity of a situation, if someone is going to ask my honest opinion, I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to tell you how I think. I'm going to tell you these certain things because I'm not going to lie to you in any route to deceive you, because I feel like this is whatever. When someone asks me, I'm scared, I lost someone, I don't know where to go, I can't tell you it's going to be better. I'm not going to put that in your head, but I'm going to say, time, give it trust. I'm here for you. Talk to me. I'm here. Let it out. I'm here for that. But I'm not going to tell you you're going to get over this. You're going to get past this, because I don't know. That's up to you. That's not up to me. There are things that people say full knowing they're never going to live up to that, and they're never going to do what they said they did. And
Yeah.
I don't like that. It's not being authentic, and that's what I like to pride myself in being.
Well, you said two very important words. It's uh, empathy and authenticity. Those, I think that of course, being honest in a way that you say something and you do it. Well, I think that you cannot do politics because politics in general, they say they do something that they don't say and vice versa. But actually, just between brackets, politics, it's very beautiful because politics is the art of communication. You know
Yeah,
that it started with Aristo, it started with the Greeks, and it's really very, very, you know what we are doing? We are doing politics. Politics
yeah.
is with the family. It's very beautiful. But
It was an
but
exchange of information back in the day, but we've
yeah,
turned it into this thing where now we don't have a person that doesn't agree with us. We have people that do agree with us. So now you're getting a bandwagon. You're getting a bunch of people that support you and nobody raises the question, what if? What this? What about this?
yeah,
Nobody's sitting in a room saying because nobody wants to be disagreed with. Nobody wants to have that we consider it an argument the worst thing in the world. And anybody, like, even when I first reached out to you for this podcast, you had to vent me. Is this person, when he says conversation, what are we talking about? Are we talking about topics? What is this? What did I post that this person sent me a DM? Everyone thinks that. And then they see who I am, they see the show, they see how it goes, and they realize, oh my God, it's literally just talking. It's an exchange of ideas. That's what conversations
yeah,
are. But
yeah,
now they're debates with politicians, with everything. Ha- you're supposed to have that banter of what about this? Well, then this. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? But now it's no, you don't agree with me. You're not right. I'm right. You're wrong. And it's cutting them
exactly.
out. That's not right.
It is about a political man and not about politics. It's about ego. And this is the problem. Politics diverted to egos of man. So, about empathy and to be authentic. So authenticity is really the key. There are a lot of keys in our podcast today. So another key is authenticity. So people are not anymore authentic. So this is the mainstream thing that we were talking about. You see, I'm feeling that everyone wants to be like the current, like other. No one dare to be himself or herself. Sorry, you see how I am brainwashed. When I say himself, I mean H, the human. So indirectly, I say herself because I don't want to be criticized and being sexist or something. But I'm saying himself like the whole human being, whatever. So we are obliged. This is our duty for the respect of our mind, our soul, and our body, our smartness, to be authentic. If we are not going to be ourselves, who will be us? Why we are always copying the ideas of other? Why we are always want to accept the others what they are saying? Let us have our own ideas, and then we see if we accept, if we agree, and we put our input. We are not stupid. Why the other are smarter than us? Why we say yes master, yes master? Why? So this is authenticity. We are really missing it in this world. Why? And the empathy. The empathy, as we spoke yesterday, a quick chat, and there is really the another key in our society is the empathy. And there is something very dangerous is the fake empathy, which is the empathy. Poor you, the
That
fake empathy.
that's
This is why
sympathy.
I'm not saying sympathy, because they can say yeah sympathy, but no. Oh, poor you. Yeah, no. The empathy is a holy thing, not in a religious way, I'm saying spiritually, because an empath can do miracles. It takes really a lot of time, a lot of work on thyself, a lot of understanding, but it is very dangerous on a person who is empath. He or she has to be aware that she or he can be abused, not physically, or mentally, I mean, from the of energy, because the society is full of egoists. I mean, in work, in life, in family, in government, in leadership. And not every leadership is someone that can profit from abuse the other, but the majority are. And when a leader is an empath, then you can see very good successful. For example, um, we have a lot of persons that they are empaths, and most of them are very spiritual, and they society used to mock them, but they are the real winners. The empath is someone who can see the pain of the other. And believe me, someone, a leader or a criminal, can feel that he is really very, very successful, but he is in pain. He is suffering. And here comes the role of the empath. So the impasse is a key from the small scale to the big scale. The missing thing in the universe is the empath. I can speak from now till tomorrow about the empath, because the world, the universe is full of narcissistic, of perverse, of criminals. They are all hunger for power. And I'm not talking that I want to live like poor and no. Uh, um, Being successful is something, but longing, being hunger for power is another thing.
Power corrupts absolutely. Um, it's
Mm, well, it depends. If you want power just for the sake of power because you are an empty ego and you know that you are not worth it, you don't deserve it, yes. But if you have a true ego and you know what you are worth, it will not corrupt you, because power will not say anything to you when you don't see power as it is, because you are power.
I think the places, the positions of power that are given to people that don't deserve them, I don't think anybody's deserved to be in a position of power. And if we do choose someone to be in a position of power, they don't want that position. Nobody that is smart, nobody that is intelligent, nobody that has this compassion and caring for other people are not fighting for positions of power. They don't want it. They don't want the position of power. They don't want that responsibility, that toll that plays on your mind, the toll that plays on your stress levels, the toll that plays on your heart. Back in the day when Benjamin Franklin and they were all signing the Declaration of Independence, those guys were around their 30s. Benjamin Franklin was in his late 60s. So you start questioning, why did this man not care to be president? Rather, when George Washington, you can look at him. I don't care if people say I'm hating on America, but if you look at George Washington, I sense a guy with a power issue. I look at him and I'm like, this guy has a huge ego. This is all about me and not about anybody else. And if you look through history, history does predate that. Now, if you look at Benjamin Franklin, he did might have done some dark stuff, but I believe anybody that is truly deserving of a position of power won't want that position, not only because they know the ramifications of being that responsible for everything, but they're also hiding something in their closet. And with that, you found out about Benjamin Franklin with corpses in his basement because he was
Yeah.
doing medical studies and stuff like that.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
that goes down a different road. But people look at people saying something and say, this is evil, when they don't understand that people that are pure, they'll let everything out open to dry. They don't care, but they don't want the responsibility of others. People that are evil want the responsibility of others. They want a corrupting position. They want something where they have more power over you. And here's the funny thing. Here's where I get into arguments with feminists, because the only conversations I've had with feminists
You
are the
want
ones.
to put me in problem with the whole women in USA or what?
No, no, no. It's I love women. I really do. I love it.
Me
But
too. Me too.
I hate the stereotypical
Mm,
feminist that
mm.
tells you to shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. And I've had that happen on this show before. I've had women say something, and it's not women, it could be men too. But the stereotypical, what everyone considers a Karen or a feminist, is the people I have problems with, because I had an educator on this podcast. Their job is to educate. They came on the show. I didn't post it. They talked down to me like I was an idiot. Everything I said, they said, "What? You're racist." I'm like, "I'm racist for what?" We're talking about Native Americans, and I'm pointing out a giant book that thousands of people have said that this is a great thing. Jordan Peterson, all these famous intellectual minds have talked about how this book is amazing, and it really shows you about the Comanches. And they told me, "No, no." And I'm like, "Okay, then teach me what is wrong."
mm,
I didn't get a single article. I didn't get a single note. I didn't even get a response. And I said,
mm,
"You're not doing anything a service. You're telling people they're stupid and dumb, and you're not showing them what you know. You're not having an exchange of ideas. You're not having a conversation." And that's where I have an issue with people that talk down to another person, because you're automatically putting yourself up on a higher pedestal when you're just on the same level as me. And it also goes with CNN or any news source. I get it, in science or in whatever, to get a better description of something, you want to classify it. If you have a certain dinosaur and you see the same dinosaur, but there's a variant to it, you classify it under a different species or a different detailed, distinct, I guess, function that it has. But when you see CNN and they tell you a young black man was shot, why
mm.
the fuck would you say that? It's not a
Yes,
young black man was shot. It's a person has just lost their life. And
right.
that's the way you should be receiving that. Not that there's a giant issue going on, which there might be, but it's creating in your head that now I have to treat this and I have to treat this. And now white devil, white devil. Hang on a second. A person had just lost their life.
Mm,
Focus on that. That should be your empathic issue right there, is that a person, when I see anything, black, Asian, white, whatever, when I see a death on screen and they see that detail, my brain cuts out that detail and looks at the person that has just lost their life. Think a 30-year-old man, no matter his ethnicity, a 30-year-old woman, a 13-year-old child. That is a life that a parent is now grieving because they had spent all this time nurturing and loving, and now it's no longer around. It's completely off this earth. And nobody is thinking in that type of way. What they're thinking is, there's this issue. That means these people need to pay. These people need to pay. A person had just lost their life.
yes.
Focus on that issue. Our color, our gender, none of that decides what just happened in this scenario. This is a person that is no longer with us, and their gender, their race, none of that means nothing right now. Their life meant something. And
Mm,
that's where I have an issue.
mm. I will let you continue about the feminism, but I want to emphasize that in science, when you state, and I would like someone to tell me the contrary, when you state the gender someone is, you are sexist. So when they say and emphasize that a black someone is dead or he did something, the fact that we are emphasizing on the color of the beloved person who is dead, it is not good, because after all, I am, as a scientist, we are human. I don't mind, we are just a small point dot in this universe. I don't want to know what is the color of the skin of this person who died, who was just killed. So the fact that they are stating it, they are doing the difference for a purpose. No one can tell me that they don't state it for a purpose. So if they were really neutral and they were really very genuine, as for example, if I were a scientist, Cyrine, I'm saying I would have said a human on terrestrial Earth, I wouldn't even look, because we are just stardust in this universe. So the fact they are emphasizing this is for me, and I'm responsible of my words, my own words, not your podcast. It is an agenda for me. For me, when you in and they turn it like seven times an hour, so everyone that is from the community will not listen to anything as you said and will just hear the color. Yeah, 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 yeah. We know this. We know this. You know, here in Lebanon, I was living in France, so I'm French also. Here in Lebanon, in Beirut, we had the war, and way they wanted to do this interracial war between Christian and Muslim. Well, both of us are Lebanese, and when someone was killed from the other religion, they were stating that from this religion was that, from that religion was that, but they, at the end, Lebanese were killing each other. So,
It's really crazy how everything tells you that you need to unite when everything in the world is telling you and, or programming into you that you need to separate and classify even more and more and more. I don't look at it like country versus country. I look at it like it's people and people. I know that's a saying, and a lot of people are like, all right, well, I get that's the point. That is the point, but it gets lost in translation with everything that goes on in the world because everything in the world is telling you that we're more divided than ever, when actually, in a lot of ways, we're very, very united. The biggest conflict, I think, that goes on in the world is there's people that want to be left alone, and there's people that won't leave them alone. A lot of people, even when the elections were happening down here, are you pro Trump? Are you pro Biden? I didn't vote because I was like, I'm not. I have my own shit going on that I don't need to focus on this right now. And then people are upset that voted for Biden, that he's in office. People are mad at Trump. I don't hate Trump. I don't hate Biden. I don't think anybody should be running the country, but you want to divide everyone into sides. It's not dodgeball in school. You can't divide people into sides. We're all the same. We're all trying to benefit the human race here. Hopefully we are, but we're not. In the grand scheme of things, we're shooting ourselves in the foot when we're fighting over the smallest minute details and not focusing on the major issues that are going on. We're focusing on this person tweeted this, or this person said that, or this studies does hurts my feelings, or this or that. What about the issue of we're going into space? They're talking about aliens. They're doing all this stuff. There's the big core issues that we should be focusing on. We're in a pandemic. Let's find a way to come out of this without everyone going mentally batshit nuts. But nobody's doing that because right now, what's interesting is, did you see that episode of Game of Thrones? Did you see this? Did you see that? And I'm like, I don't. I'm sorry. I can't dive down that rabbit hole of you're a Biden supporter, you're a Trump supporter. When you introduce to me, you say, hi, my name is this. And then you say, I'm a liberal or I'm a conservative or I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm a whatever. I've already stopped listening. You should be talking to me as a person with your thoughts, your heart, whatever. I don't want to hear your political party. I don't want to hear your thoughts on our social economic stance. I don't want to hear any of that stuff. I want to talk to you about what's on your brain, what's your mind like, what do you like, what do you want to talk about, what makes your eyes light up. That's interesting stuff
uh-huh.
that another person will love.
But it doesn't benefit anyone if there is a lot of people that think like us. You know, it doesn't divide, and division is fuel. It doesn't benefit anyone. So this is why these ideas will not flourish between a lot of people. But I will always talk about this. So please continue your ideas with this feminism you started, and I continue. We
Oh,
flip to
I
another.
don't like people talking down to me. Like if you tell me what to do, I just have this bone in my back that's like I don't like authority. I like being asked to do things, not being like you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And the person I was talking to was talking down to me like I was in like a lower like an animal or a chimp or something like that. And I was like, I'm here talking with you. Instead of trying to argue or put me down, let's try and find a way that we can both elevate from talking with our perspectives, or what information I have and information you have. That's my issue, because every feminist, or I support what they do, but the ones you see on TV, like I've
Okay.
watched plenty of interviews where they're cutting off the person that's talking instead of letting the person talk. I'm like, you're not making the world look at you in a way. You're creating the stereotype that everyone associates. Thick rim glasses, this certain like dark, or not dark, bright red lipstick, this like straight whatever down hair, like long style hair. It's like this I'm just as good as you. It's like, yeah, you are. Don't need to cut me off. Let's talk. Let's elevate our perspectives. That happens with so many other things too, not just feminism. It's just that's the
Oh,
main problem I've seen is when I talk to someone who's a feminist. They're like, or no, it's not even feminism. It's activism. That's what it is. The
Yes.
supreme activists, the ones that go and try and protest and do all this stuff, I get it. But you don't enhance the area for conversation. You act out in like a fit, like a toddler. And that's what I don't like.
If you may allow me, I will speak a little bit about this because it's also I have my opinion, and I have opinion on that. Well, I saw an interview with someone, and I like that person, and I respect him a lot, and it's Jordan Peterson. And he's far from stupid, and maybe I don't agree with all the whole ideas that he defend, but a lot of his ideas. And um, one of the interviews that he was with two women, and of course they ask him and they never let him finish his answers, never. But anyway, this is the way that they do. And they ask him a question, and he didn't answer. He didn't let him finish. And she said, one of the women, I forgot her name. She said, "Of course, I am feminist. I wear pink." And I can find you this interview, and I will send the link. And this is so he said, with his calm, he said, "Oh yeah, I understand you are feminist." And well, I at the beginning, 10 years ago, I was feminist. But with the way that feminism is going, I am not in the same direction. I am with, of course, the with the woman to be equal to men, but we are not the same. This thing, the idea that they are putting to the new generation, we are not the same. I am astrophysicist. I can turn and put telescopes. I do electronic things. I wear heels. I wear pants. I can cut, my hair is short. I can put lipsticks. I can be without anything. But we are not the same. There is XX, XY. So we cannot change nature, and that does not make me less of a human, neither less of a man. This thing to change the nature, this is, I'm not saying that I am less of a man, but to have this to make a demonstration or a manifestation to say that men have to go down, we are men. No, we are not. And when we say that uh, 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 to be feminist, we have to hate men. Men, by definition, do not respect women. They want to kill women. No, this is not true. And giving an example that we are in pink and we are feminist, it's really not. And the other thing that shocked me is really, this was a real shock. There were, I think, in England, sports competition where a transsexual was gave the right to run with female. This is completely nonsense. Doctors were shouting because, can you imagine? So this is also the mainstream idea. And when doctors shouted that this is biologically not correct, they were not invited on TV. So, so
I got a
all the
better
three,
example for you. I got a better one.
yes,
So,
but I will finish my sentence
yeah.
and please give me the. So the three, I am not against LGBT. So you see, we have to explain ourselves because I will be homophobic, and
Yeah.
so it's really crazy. The doctor said that those three transsexual are have more energy. They are taller. They are build like more most, and the three of them won. Is it the fairness of sports? I'm done.
A better example than the football one that you're talking about, there was a MMA fighter who did not disclose that he had been a woman for 2 years. So he was initially a man and then switched over to a woman, and he was fighting other women in the UFC and was beating the living crap out of these women, just because his body type was way different. His last name's Fox. If you just Google UFC fighter trans and then Fox, you'll probably find it. Um, I have trans friends, and they're probably the people I could relate to the most because I'm body dysmorphic. It's why I work out all the time. So, understanding looking into a mirror, not seeing what other people see, is definitely something I can relate to a little bit. But it becomes an issue because now people, like, I think the main thing is you're being appraised for changing your gender in an act of support, but you're also imprinting into the minds of children that it's okay to do so and that you're going to be awarded if you do, like you get an accomplishment, a medal or something. And there's a whole site people can look up called transgenderregret.com, and it's a bunch of people that have killed themselves or they're thinking about it or talking about their massive depression because they did this massive thing without letting them fully develop their thoughts and their own ideas of things of what they are. And that's where I see, like, I'm conflated, and the trans arguments talk about it. Especially, I don't care if you want to switch. I don't care what you want to do with your life. You want to be gay.
Indeed.
I didn't find out my grandma was a lesbian until I was in my 20s. Okay, I didn't even question it. I didn't give a shit. She's my grandma. I'm gonna love her, whatever. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if whatever. I don't care if you want to be a woman. I don't care if you want to be a man. I don't care if you want to be a non-disclosed. But the issue I have is when you start trying to force people or control them or program their head to think that that's what they want rather than letting the person figure it out for themselves. There was a 7-year-old that became transgender because the boy was like, I didn't like my penis, and the mom was like, then you must be transgender. Instead of explaining what that was, he's 7, you shouldn't know what that is yet. You should just look down and see something and be like, oh, why is this here? That was never explained. Instead, they went to the surgery and had his gender changed. Another thing that just happened in the news, the two women that were born with the same body, two different heads,
Mm, mm,
they finally had a kid that was twins. And the twins, I guess there was an issue with the circumcision for the two
right.
boys,
Mm.
and messed up one of the other boys' crotch, and then they just now are going to call him a girl. So now he's going to grow up his whole life knowing he's a girl when initially from birth he was a man. So here's the issue: is like, what's right, what's wrong, what are we slipping through, what's this? These are questions we should be asking, not my kid doesn't like this, I'm going to get him changed. It should be focusing on the science aspect of things. Are you a man? Are you a woman? You can be equal in rights, you can be equal in whatever, but there are some genetic differences there. Science has proven that is not being acknowledged. Instead, that's hate and that's cancel culture. I'm like, fucking whatever. Well, all right, space doesn't exist. Earth's flat. Fuck it.
Yes, Earth is flat, of course. Of course, and it has a generator from down to go up. This is why gravity exists, you know that. And why the moon is spherical, because it is just the blessing to have Earth, human on Earth.
I can't get down this rabbit hole. We got to do another podcast on it, Serene. We've been going on for an hour and a half. If we get into the trans thing, that's going to go into
I
like
know.
10
But
years.
you know, just to be pragmatic, because I love to be pragmatic. The only key for mental health is to not be ashamed of talking about it. It's not bad. It's not something that you have to be ashamed of. I know a lot of people, men and women, they are talking to me, they are writing to me after every segment I do. Uh, they write me, yes, I feel this, I want to die, I don't want to continue, I don't know what to say. It is okay. You are not sick, you are not crazy. If you are feeling you don't have energy, it's normal. The whole earth is like that. When you don't communicate, when you don't see, and I insist, The social media is fake friends. If you don't have your friends of five fingers, and if you don't go out, the thing that we used to do, and take also, as I am a positive person, try to think about really what you love to do. Take it as a positive thing to change your life. Maybe whatever you did before, it was not for you. Maybe your job was not the right thing for you to do. Maybe those friends that you used to see, who you are not able to reach now, and they are not really your friends. Maybe it is really now for the moment, for a resurrection, for to find yourself. Go and live the moment, find your peace, because and there is something very important also, and I see a lot of people of my community, if they are at home in confinement, they don't take shower every day. They are always in PGs because they are working at home, or this is really not good to do.
Yeah.
Consider every day as a gift. Make the effort. Do home sports, even if you cannot go to the gym, because in Lebanon it's also confinement. We cannot go. Try to maintain your body health, because it's also the mind health. Have put your I wrote, for example, a schedule with a paper. Try to go to the basics. You see, I always write things, because when you touch, we are a touch person, touch animal. So, right, I will do this and that, and be gentle to yourself. Don't expect to do more than you can. Forgive yourself, and think that always there is the light at the end of the tunnel. You are great. And please don't listen to the news anymore, because they are all lying on us. Try to read Eckhart Tolle and something that you like every day. Do something that you like. Drink your favorite drink. Do sports. Think that maybe it was not the thing that I was doing, that it was the right thing to do. And I think that it will help us.
I like
Seriously.
that. That's definitely what I'm going to end on, but I do want to end with this. Every day is a gift and tomorrow is not promised.